Thank you very much indeed. Now, somewhere between 1 and 2.5% of the adult population has bipolar disorder, the condition formerly known as manic depression. But do you know what it actually is?
I don't know what bipolar disorder is, but manic depression would just be when you're really, really depressed. To be honest, I don't really know the full definition. That's really bad.
I thought bipolar was the extreme of manic depression in a way, where someone's really, really energetic, feeling really, really good, and then very, very, very depressed.
Isn't it when somebody has extreme mood swings and they're either very high or very low? They have episodes of extreme behaviour and elation followed by episodes of deep depression and suicidal feelings, I guess. That's my limited understanding of it.
Well, such views are not uncommon, according to Chris Daines, who has bipolar disorder. In order to help people better understand the condition he lives with, he has agreed to keep an audio diary for us, charting the highs and the lows of living with bipolar. Well, Chris explained to Peter White how the illness affects his day-to-day life, and you'll hear him after some facts about the condition from the charity Rethink.
The condition affects around 4 million people in the UK. Bipolar typically develops in late adolescence or early adulthood. Although symptoms are often not recognised as an illness, and people may suffer for years before it is properly diagnosed and treated.
When I was a postgraduate at Oxford, I went to the doctor feeling very unwell, and I said I thought that there was something wrong with me. I was really quite in a bad way then, and that ended my postgraduate career.
What happened? What kind of treatment did you have?
Well, they did a very extraordinary thing. The chaplain and the college doctor thought it might be a nice idea if I went away and stayed in a monastery on Cordy Island off the Pembrokeshire coast, which I did for about 4 months, I suppose. And it was a very nice, restful time. There was a doctor there who was one of the lay brothers, and I think they really did help put me back together. But I don't think it was a long-term solution.
It causes mood swings from extreme highs, sometimes known as the mania, to lows of sadness and hopelessness, the depression. There are usually periods of normality in between, and people can experience severe changes in energy and behaviour at these times.
I was misdiagnosed as having unipolar depression, and when the treatment for unipolar depression didn't work, Prozac didn't work effectively, I was then subsequently diagnosed with bipolar disorder in about 2001.
So at the time, the assumption was that you had what people generally call depression. But
yes, very much so. Very much so.
The cause is unknown, but there is evidence that it could be genetic, and the onset often follows a stressful or traumatic event such as bereavement, loss of a job, or even childbirth.
Episodes of mania vary, but typically involve increased energy, activity and restlessness, producing euphoria or extreme irritability. Spending sprees, aggression and drug or alcohol misuse are not uncommon.
When you're manic, you feel absolutely wonderful. I mean, it's so enjoyable. I've never been on crack, but I should imagine it's something like that. Extreme bursts of energy. The ability to be very, very funny. And extreme bursts of creativity. In my case, that means writing. They say that depression is hell for you and mania is hell for your friends.
Can you perhaps give me an idea of the sequence in which things might happen and how long they might take? I mean, does a down follow an up?
Yes, I think it can. You can almost feel it coming on. You can be brushing your teeth and it's like a switch. Oh, God, not this again. And then say to myself, don't entertain the thoughts, don't think yourselves into them. By a couple of hours later, I will be in the depths of despair. I will be crying, I won't be able to read, I will simply have to go to bed. And I know intellectually that all the dark thoughts are a symptom of an illness. And then I will probably be in bed for 2 or 3 days, and the switch will just go back on again. I will be down maybe quite badly 2 to 3 times a month, badly enough to have to get help maybe once a month by calling in my nurse or somebody. Generally, the mania is easier to cope with.
And in terms of everyday life, your relationships, what effect does it have on that?
If you live in the community in which you've been very, very ill, there is a great deal of damaged relationships that one's made while one was ill. And coming to terms with that is very, very difficult. People in the past, people one's worked with as colleagues, who one has hurt very badly and has to accept are probably going to have very great difficulties coming to terms with oneself.
Can you just explain why these bursts have such an effect on other people? Because you've described them as very enjoyable in your personal terms. So what effect do they have on other people?
Oh, I can say dreadful, dreadful things, you know, and be very cutting about people, being very destructive. When I used to get manic and angry, I used to break furniture. I got through a Victorian chest of drawers, a coffee table, and some rather good Victorian dining chairs, all in the space of 1 week once.
During depression, sadness, anxiousness and empty moods are often experienced, alongside feelings of hopelessness or pessimism and guilt and worthlessness.
Loss of interest in activities, fatigue and irritability, and thoughts of death or suicide can be experienced.
You seem to go through this creative, jolly phase, and then the whole thing spirals out of control. And that's when it's really dangerous. And in fact, the really most dangerous thing about being bipolar is when you're in a so-called mixed state. That means you have the depression to make you want to kill yourself and the energy to be able to do it.
Have you tried to kill yourself?
I've had what they call suicidal ideation many times, in the sense that one contemplates it, one thinks about it. That happens weekly and daily. You know, you have to learn strategies to cope with that. I'd never had any physical plans. I think suicide leaves such a nasty mess behind for the people who love you. And there seems to be no practical way I can get away with it which isn't going to leave that dreadful mess behind.
Bipolar disorder is a lifelong condition. Symptoms are severe, potentially resulting in damaged relationships or poor school performance. For some, it prevents permanent employment, but it can be treated, and people with the illness can lead full and productive lives.
Do you regard what you have as a disability, or is it actually a part of the person that you are?
Both. It is part of the person I am, and I think possibly without it I couldn't have achieved what I have achieved academically. I've had a great deal of fun writing a novel, and you know, I don't think I would have been able to do that without the bipolar, but then I don't know. I've never really not been like it.
That's, I suppose, what I mean. Would you like to be a different person? Clearly, this causes you a great deal of trouble, but is it who you are?
I would like bits of it. What I would like to do, and I've talked to my consultant about this, is we're going to get that, whatever makes you slightly hypermanic, before you go into full mania, so the stuff that makes you creative and happy and so on, we're going to find out what that is, and we're going to bottle it, and then we're going to sell it, and it's going to make a fortune. So if one could just turn on the hypermania, that would be great. But unfortunately we can't. It comes at an enormous price, and that is the sadness of the damn thing, I suppose.
Well, that was Chris Danes, who'll be keeping a regular audio diary of his experiences with bipolar disorder. And there is advice on the condition on the You and Yours website, where you can let us know of your experiences, and that's at bbc.co.uk/radio4/You and Yours. And you can contact the Radio